The atmosphere aboard the Vrashtar, a ship of the Drexery Dominion, was tense with curiosity and skepticism. Captain Zarth Varath, a towering Drexery with reptilian features and skin like obsidian scales, stood in front of the crew. His sharp talons tapped against the console as he reviewed the latest data from the Galactic Concordance. The report detailed an anomaly. A new species, humanity, had been classified as Deathworlders. For the Drexery, who prided themselves as one of the galaxy's few true Deathworld species, this claim was both preposterous and insulting. Humans hail from Earth, a world classified as Class 5 hazardous, with diverse ecosystems, unpredictable weather, and a thriving population of apex predators. By galactic standards, it was a nightmare planet. Yet somehow, this tiny, unassuming species had not only survived but thrived. The Drexery Council, intrigued and irritated, had ordered Captain Varath to investigate. Their mission: observe, evaluate, and debunk humanity's claim to the Deathworlder title. Standing beside Varath was his second-in-command, Velra, a smaller but no less formidable Drexery with keen golden eyes. She glanced at her captain, her voice edged with skepticism. A species of fragile bipeds with soft skin and no natural defenses. And the Concordance dares to compare them to us? Varath growled low in his throat. It's an affront to our legacy. The Drexery have endured volcanic hellscapes, acid storms, and predators that would devour lesser species in moments. These humans are a fluke, a statistical anomaly. But we will see for ourselves. The crew rumbled in agreement, their pride as Drexery warriors fueling their disdain for the newcomers. The Vrashtar adjusted course, its sleek, obsidian hull slicing through the stars as it approached Earth. The planet loomed large on their monitors, a swirling sphere of blue and green dotted with clouds. It seemed almost serene, a stark contrast to the deadly worlds the Drexery called home. Scans indicate multiple densely populated regions, Velra reported. Primitive technology. Basic orbital defenses. This world should have been claimed or destroyed eons ago. Varatha's lip curled. Their survival is a testament to luck, not strength. Prepare a landing party. We'll see what makes these so-called Deathworlders tick. The ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, its stealth systems cloaking it from human detection. They landed in a remote wilderness far from human cities, a dense forest teeming with life. The Drexery, clad in bioresistant armor and armed with advanced weaponry, stepped onto the alien soil. Immediately, their senses were assaulted by the cacophony of Earth's wildlife, chirping insects, rustling leaves, and distant howls. This is their death world? Velra scoffed, stepping over a moss-covered log. It's quaint. Varath knelt to examine the ground, his sharp eyes scanning the surroundings. Quaint or not, remain vigilant. Even the weakest prey can surprise you when cornered. The crew fanned out, their scanners analyzing the flora and fauna. To their surprise, the biodiversity was astonishing. From venomous snakes to carnivorous plants, Earth was a patchwork of challenges. Yet, it was not the wildlife that intrigued them most, it was the humans. Their first encounter occurred near a riverbank, where a small human camp had been established. A group of humans, dressed in rugged outdoor gear, were gathered around a campfire, their laughter carrying on the wind. They seemed relaxed, utterly unaware of the predators stalking them from the shadows. Varath observed them through his visor, his expression unreadable. They're too unguarded. Where are their weapons? Their sentries? Do they not realize the dangers of this wilderness? Velra snorted. Perhaps they're as foolish as they look. One of the humans, a tall man with weathered features, stood and stretched. He picked up a nearby object, a fishing rod, and headed toward the river. As he cast his line into the water, a shadow moved beneath the surface. The Drexery recognized the predatory motion immediately. A massive crocodile-like creature emerged, its jaws wide and powerful. Velra smirked. Now we'll see the fragility of these humans. To their astonishment, the man didn't run. Instead, he calmly reeled in his line, grabbed a nearby machete, and leapt onto the creature's back. With precision and strength, he avoided its thrashing tail and delivered a series of calculated blows, striking just beneath its armored skull. The predator collapsed, lifeless, as the man wiped his brow and returned to camp, dragging his prize. The Drexery stared in silence. Velra broke it with a stunned whisper. That wasn't luck. Varatha's eyes narrowed. No, it wasn't. They're stronger than they appear. The Drexery continued their observations, trailing the humans as they navigated the wilderness. Over the next several days, they witnessed feats that defied their assumptions. Humans scaling sheer cliffs with minimal equipment, building shelters from nothing but branches and vines, and crafting weapons with an ingenuity that bordered on instinct. Each encounter chipped away at the Drexery's disdain, replacing it with a grudging respect. It wasn't just their physicality that impressed the Drexery, it was their adaptability. When a sudden storm flooded the camp, the humans quickly reorganized, moving to higher ground and securing their supplies with an efficiency born of experience. When one of them was injured by a venomous snake, the group worked together to treat the wound, their knowledge of the local ecosystem rivaling that of any seasoned Deathworlder. As the days passed, the Drexery found themselves drawn into situations they hadn't anticipated. A curious human child, wandering away from the camp, stumbled upon Velra while she was gathering samples. For a moment, the two stared at each other, frozen. Then the child, unafraid, extended a hand toward her. "You're not from here, are you?" the child said with wide eyes. Velra, caught off guard, didn't respond immediately. The child tilted their head. "You're really shiny. Are you from space?" Before Velra could answer, the child's parents appeared, calling for them. The child waved, seemingly unconcerned by the alien presence, and ran back to the camp. When Velra reported the encounter to Varath, he frowned. "They're fearless. That should concern us." "They're more than fearless," Velra said, her voice tinged with something close to admiration. "They're curious. They see danger, and instead of fleeing, they want to understand it." Varath didn't respond, but the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes spoke volumes. The more they observed humanity, the more they realized the truth: humans weren't just survivors, they were pioneers. They didn't merely endure their death world, they thrived in it, shaping it to their will. Their mission took an unexpected turn when the humans faced a genuine crisis. A wildfire, sparked by a lightning storm, swept through the forest with terrifying speed. The Drexery watched as the humans rallied, their camp transforming into a hub of activity. Buckets were filled, trenches were dug, and the humans worked tirelessly to contain the blaze. What astounded the Drexery most was their cooperation. There was no hierarchy, no orders barked, just a shared determination to protect what they could. Velra, watching the scene unfold, turned to Varath. "Captain, should we intervene?" Varath hesitated. Their mission was strictly observational, but something about the human struggle resonated with him. He nodded. "Activate the fire suppression drones. Do it discreetly." The Drexery's advanced technology, combined with the humans' efforts, eventually quelled the fire. The forest was scarred but not destroyed, and the humans celebrated their victory with exhausted relief. Varath stood at the edge of the burnt clearing, his gaze distant. Velra approached, her tone uncharacteristically soft. "They're more like us than we thought, aren't they?" Varath nodded slowly. "In some ways, they're worse. They don't just survive, they dominate. They shape their environment, adapt to every challenge, and push the limits of what should be possible." Velra smirked. "You sound impressed." "I am," Varath admitted. "But I'm also wary. A species like this, they could rival even the Drexery if they ever turned their gaze beyond this world." As the Vrashtar prepared to leave Earth, the Drexery carried with them a newfound respect and a lingering unease. The humans were not the fragile creatures they had expected. They were something far more dangerous, a species with the audacity to conquer a death world and the potential to conquer the stars. The Vrashtar ascended silently above the forest, its cloaking systems masking its presence from Earth's primitive detection systems. Captain Varath watched the planet recede on the viewscreen, his claws drumming against the console in contemplation. The brief encounters with humanity had left him unsettled, though he would never admit it openly. There was a ferocity to these beings, a quiet, unassuming resolve that defied their soft, unarmored forms. Yet, the Drexery's mission wasn't merely to observe but to assess. And there was more to humanity than their resilience. Varoth summoned Velra and the science division to the command chamber. The room was illuminated by holographic projections of Earth's ecosystem, each display showcasing a different facet of the planet's dangers. Apex predators, venomous flora, and extreme weather conditions were outlined in meticulous detail, their lethal potential dwarfing that of most Class 5 Deathworlds. "They've adapted to this," Varoth began, gesturing to the displays. "Their ingenuity and cooperation are remarkable, but these conditions alone do not explain their classification as Deathworlders. I want to know what we're missing." Velra stepped forward, her golden eyes flickering with curiosity. "The humans exhibit behaviors that go beyond mere survival. They're opportunists, problem solvers. They face threats head-on, not because they're fearless but because they've learned to turn adversity into an advantage." A younger officer, Zareth, interjected with skepticism. "They're clever, yes, but cleverness doesn't make them Deathworlders. What have they faced that the Drexery haven't?" Velra smirked. "You saw the wildfire, didn't you? They didn't just endure it, they fought it. They rallied, improvised, and prevailed. That's a Deathworlder's mindset." Varoth silenced the debate with a wave of his claw. "We need more evidence. Their adaptability is impressive, but I want to see their limits. If they're truly worthy of the Deathworlder title, they must have been forged by something more than mere circumstance." He turned to the science division. "Prepare a simulation. We'll create an environment modeled after Drexer, our homeworld. Let's see how they fare when stripped of their familiarity." The Drexery simulation chamber was a marvel of bioengineering, capable of replicating the harshest environments in the galaxy. The crew meticulously recreated the volcanic landscapes of Drexer, molten rivers snaking through jagged obsidian spires, acidic rain searing the air, and predatory creatures stalking the rocky terrain. This was a world that had forged the Drexery into one of the galaxy's most feared species. "We'll abduct a small group," Velra explained as she adjusted the parameters. "Not to harm them, but to observe. The simulation will test their adaptability under conditions they've never encountered." Varoth nodded, his gaze fixed on the holographic map of the simulated environment. "Ensure they have basic tools and supplies. We'll give them a chance to survive, but no more than that." Within hours, the Drexery had selected their subjects, a group of 5 humans from a wilderness expedition near the original landing site. The abduction was swift and seamless, the humans transported from their camp to the simulation chamber in a matter of moments. When they awoke, confusion and panic rippled through the group. "What the hell is this?" one of the humans muttered, his voice echoing against the jagged obsidian walls. He was tall and broad-shouldered, his sunburned skin glistening with sweat as he scanned the alien landscape. "Caleb, where's the camp?" another asked, a wiry woman with sharp eyes and a determined expression. Her hands instinctively gripped a survival knife she'd kept at her side. "I don't know, Nina," Caleb replied, his voice tight with unease. "This isn't anywhere near where we were. Look at the sky." Above them, the simulated sky glowed with a sickly orange hue, streaked with ash and lightning. The air was thick with heat and the acrid scent of sulfur. The group exchanged nervous glances, their breaths coming shallow in the oppressive atmosphere. A younger man, clearly the least experienced of the group, began to panic. "This is impossible. We were by the river. What is this?" "Calm down, Eric," Nina snapped. "Freaking out won't help us. Let's figure out where we are and how to get out of here." Unbeknownst to them, the Drexery were watching intently. Velra observed the humans' initial reactions, her expression unreadable. They're disoriented, but not incapacitated. Their first instinct is to regroup and assess. That's promising. Varoth crossed his arms. They're adaptable, but we've seen that already. Let's see how long that composure lasts. As the simulation unfolded, the humans began to explore their environment. They encountered the first of Drexer's hazards, a river of molten lava cutting through their path. The heat was unbearable, the air shimmering with its intensity. "We can't go through that," Eric said, his voice quivering. "We'll die." "We're not going through," Caleb replied. "We're going around." There has to be a way across further upstream. Nina frowned, examining the area. There's no guarantee we'll find a crossing point. We need to think creatively. What do we have? The group inventoried their limited supplies: a survival knife, a hatchet, a coil of rope, and a small fire starter kit. Nina's gaze fell on a cluster of rocky outcroppings jutting over the river. If we can anchor the rope, we might be able to climb across. Eric stared at her in disbelief. You're insane. That's better than sitting here waiting to burn, Caleb interrupted. Nina's right. Let's move. The Drexery watched as the humans worked together, using their tools and ingenuity to fashion a makeshift crossing. Despite the oppressive heat and the ever-present danger of the lava, they succeeded, their teamwork and determination shining through. Velra leaned closer to the monitor. They don't rely on brute strength. They compensate with ingenuity and cooperation. Commendable, Varoth admitted grudgingly. But ingenuity won't save them from what's coming next. The second phase of the simulation introduced one of Drexer's apex predators, a creature resembling a massive, six-legged lizard with razor-sharp teeth and acidic saliva. The humans spotted it first, its eyes glinting in the darkness as it stalked them from the shadows. What is that? Eric whispered, his voice trembling. Doesn't matter, Caleb replied, his voice low. It's not friendly. We need to move. The predator lunged, its massive frame barreling toward them. The humans scattered, their movements frantic but purposeful. Nina grabbed the hatchet, swinging it with precision as the creature closed in. Her strike glanced off its armored hide, but the force staggered it just enough for Caleb to deliver a blow with the survival knife. The Drexery crew leaned forward in unison, their fascination growing as the humans fought. The predator was larger, stronger, and more heavily armored, yet the humans compensated with tactics. They used the environment to their advantage, leading the creature into a narrow crevice where its size became a hindrance. Once trapped, they worked together to deliver a series of coordinated attacks, eventually bringing it down. Velra exhaled slowly. They killed it. Without advanced weapons. Without preparation. They killed it. Varitha's eyes narrowed. They're not just resourceful. They're relentless. They don't stop until they've overcome. As the simulation progressed, the Drexery continued to escalate the challenges. Acidic rainstorms, collapsing terrain, and increasingly aggressive predators tested the humans at every turn. Yet, no matter the odds, the humans endured. Their ability to adapt, cooperate, and innovate allowed them to survive where most species would have faltered. By the end of the experiment, Varitha's skepticism had been replaced by something closer to unease. The humans weren't just surviving, they were thriving. In conditions designed to break them, they had found ways to persevere. They're more dangerous than we thought, Velra said quietly. Varoth nodded, his expression grim. They're worse than Deathworlders. They're conquerors. And they don't even realize it yet. The humans huddled beneath an outcropping of jagged obsidian, their makeshift shelter offering scant protection from the acidic rain that poured from the crimson sky. Steam hissed and rose around them as droplets splashed against the superheated rock, the acrid stench filling the air. Despite the oppressive conditions, the group pressed on, their focus unbroken. Caleb crouched at the edge of the shelter, his eyes scanning the horizon. We need to keep moving. This storm isn't letting up anytime soon, and we don't know how much longer our supplies will last. Nina nodded, though exhaustion was evident in her features. We're pushing through dangers we've never seen before. The only reason we've made it this far is because we haven't stopped thinking. Eric, trembling and barely holding himself together, muttered, thinking won't save us if the next creature we run into is faster or stronger. Nina shot him a sharp look. No, but freezing in fear will kill us faster. The Drexery, watching through hidden surveillance drones, observed the scene with growing unease. Velra's keen golden eyes flicked across the monitors, her voice laced with reluctant respect. They're holding up better than expected. That storm would incapacitate most species within minutes. Varoth, standing silently behind her, was less impressed with their endurance and more concerned with the implications of their behavior. They're not just surviving, Velra. They're learning. Every obstacle we throw at them makes them sharper, faster, more efficient. They're like predators testing boundaries, Velra said, her tone thoughtful. Finding weaknesses and exploiting them. And we've yet to see their breaking point, Varoth said grimly. Perhaps it's time we did. In the simulation chamber, the humans pressed on through the storm, their boots sinking into the viscous, ash-laden ground. Caleb's survival knife was gripped tightly in his hand, a weapon that had proven indispensable in the alien landscape. Nina carried the coiled rope, her sharp eyes constantly scanning for potential dangers. Eric followed reluctantly, his unease growing with each step. Their journey brought them to a massive canyon, its depths obscured by a swirling mist that glowed faintly from the molten rivers below. Jagged spires jutted from the chasm, and the only visible path across was a narrow, precarious bridge of volcanic rock. Nina knelt near the edge of the canyon, testing the stability of the bridge with the tip of her knife. It's not ideal, but it'll hold if we're careful. Eric groaned. We don't know what's waiting on the other side, or worse, what's down there. Caleb stepped forward, his expression resolute. We're not staying here. Let's move. They began their crossing, each step careful and deliberate. Halfway across, a low rumble echoed through the canyon, and the ground beneath their feet trembled. From the mist below, a monstrous creature emerged, a gargantuan serpent-like predator with glistening, metallic scales and glowing red eyes. It coiled around one of the spires, its massive jaws opening to reveal rows of serrated teeth. The humans froze as the serpent let out a deafening roar. Nina tightened her grip on the rope, her mind racing. If it comes for us, we won't make it across in time. Caleb's jaw tightened. Then we don't let it come for us. In the Drexery observation chamber, Velra leaned forward, her claws gripping the edge of the console. A serpentine predator. One of Drexer's most fearsome apex species. This will end it. Varoth said nothing, his eyes fixed on the humans as they prepared to act. His gut told him this wouldn't be as simple as Velra believed. The serpent struck, its massive body lunging toward the bridge with terrifying speed. Caleb and Nina leapt aside just in time, the bridge shaking violently beneath them. The creature reared back for another attack, its glowing eyes locked onto its prey. Caleb yelled, Nina, the rope. Anchor it to the spire. Nina moved quickly, securing the rope to a jagged protrusion. Meanwhile, Caleb grabbed a jagged shard of obsidian from the bridge and hurled it at the serpent, the sharp edge glancing off its scales. The creature hissed, momentarily distracted. Eric, paralyzed with fear, stumbled backward and nearly fell into the chasm. Nina lunged, grabbing his arm and pulling him to safety. Get a grip, Eric. We're not dying here. The serpent lunged again, its jaws snapping inches away from Caleb. Using the rope as an anchor, Nina swung across the bridge, narrowly avoiding the creature's massive coils. Caleb followed, landing hard on the opposite side. Eric hesitated, but another roar from the serpent spurred him into action. The three humans reached the other side just as the bridge collapsed beneath the serpent's weight, sending it plummeting into the molten river below. Breathing heavily, Caleb turned to the others. Everyone okay? Nina nodded, though her expression was grim. That thing won't stay down for long. Let's keep moving. The Drexery crew watched in stunned silence as the humans survived yet another trial. Velra's mandibles twitched with disbelief. That shouldn't have been possible. They outmaneuvered it with nothing but primitive tools. They didn't just outmaneuver it, Varoth said quietly. They outthought it. They adapted, worked together, and used their environment to their advantage. Velra turned to him, her skepticism giving way to unease. What are you suggesting, Captain? Varatha's voice was low, almost contemplative. I'm suggesting that these humans are more than Deathworlders. They're a force of nature. The final stage of the simulation introduced multiple simultaneous threats, rapidly shifting terrain, acidic geysers erupting from the ground, and a pack of Drexery predators, six-legged creatures with razor-sharp claws and glowing green saliva that melted anything it touched. The humans, battered and exhausted, faced these challenges with a determination that bordered on defiance. Caleb led the group with unwavering focus, devising strategies on the fly. Nina used their dwindling supplies to create makeshift weapons and traps, while Eric, though visibly shaken, provided critical support by scouting and gathering resources. When the predators attacked, the humans didn't retreat. They fought with a ferocity that stunned the Drexery observers. Using their surroundings, they lured the creatures into a series of traps, neutralizing them one by one. The battle was chaotic and brutal, but in the end, the humans stood victorious. Back in the observation chamber, Varoth turned off the simulation. The holographic landscape dissolved, leaving the humans in the sterile confines of the Drexery facility. They collapsed to the ground, breathing heavily but alive. They passed every test, Velra said, her voice hollow. No, they didn't just pass, they excelled. They're not Deathworlders. They're something else entirely. Varoth nodded, his expression grim. They're survivors. And if the galaxy ever underestimates them, it will pay a heavy price. The humans sat in stunned silence as the simulated landscape dissolved around them, revealing the cold, metallic walls of the Drexery simulation chamber. For a moment, they exchanged confused glances, their exhaustion and adrenaline making it difficult to process what had just happened. Caleb was the first to stand, his movements slow and deliberate as he scanned the unfamiliar environment. This isn't Earth, he said, his voice low but steady. His hand instinctively went to his survival knife, though it felt inadequate after the trials they had faced. Nina rose next, her sharp eyes narrowing as she surveyed the chamber. No kidding. And I'm guessing we didn't just magically teleport out of that hellscape either. Eric, still trembling, leaned against a nearby console. You mean, someone did this to us? Before they could theorize further, a door at the far end of the chamber hissed open. Captain Varoth entered, his towering Drexery frame casting a long shadow across the room. He was flanked by Velra and several other crew members, their reptilian features gleaming under the harsh artificial light. The humans tensed immediately. Caleb stepped protectively in front of Eric, while Nina gripped her makeshift weapon, a shard of obsidian salvaged from the simulation. The Drexery stopped a few meters away, their expressions unreadable. Caleb's voice cut through the silence. Who the hell are you, and what do you want from us? Varoth regarded them with a mix of respect and caution. You are on board the Vrashtar, a Drexery vessel. The environment you just endured was a simulation designed to test your capabilities. Nina's jaw tightened. You mean you put us through all that as some kind of experiment? Velra stepped forward, her tone calm but firm. We needed to understand you. Your species has been classified as Deathworlders, but we doubted your claim. The simulation was meant to reveal the truth. And? Caleb asked, his tone sharp. What did you find out? Varetha's gaze locked onto Caleb's, the weight of his words heavy. That humanity is not only worthy of the title but perhaps exceeds it. The humans exchanged wary glances, their defensive stances relaxing only slightly. Caleb, his exhaustion replaced by simmering anger, took a step toward Varoth. You dragged us away from our home, put us through hell, and now you're telling us it was just a test? What gives you the right? Varoth met his gaze evenly, his voice devoid of malice. The Drexery are one of the galaxy's original Deathworlder species. We believed ourselves unmatched in resilience, adaptability, and strength. When the Galactic Concordance classified humanity as Deathworlders, we saw it as an insult, a challenge to our legacy. But now, we see that humanity is not a threat to be underestimated. Eric, still shaken, found his voice. So, what happens now? You've seen what we can do. Are you going to keep us here? Experiment on us some more? Varoth shook his head. No. You've proven more than we expected. It would be dishonorable to detain you further. You will be returned to your world. Nina stepped forward, her tone icy. You think letting us go makes this okay? You kidnapped us. You put our lives at risk for your pride. Velra tilted her head, her golden eyes glinting with something like regret. Perhaps. But your resilience has earned more than our respect, it has changed how we see your species. You've shown us what humanity is capable of, and that knowledge will echo far beyond this chamber. Despite their anger, the humans recognized the gravity of the situation. Caleb turned to his companions, his voice low. We need to get home. This isn't over, but we'll deal with the fallout later. Nina nodded, her hand relaxing on her weapon. Eric, still pale, managed a weak smile of agreement. Varoth gestured to a nearby console, where a holographic map of Earth appeared. We will return you to your camp. When you wake, this encounter will feel like a dream. You will retain no memory of this simulation. The humans froze, their anger rekindling. Caleb's eyes narrowed. You're going to wipe our memories? It is necessary, Velra said calmly. The Concordance cannot know of this experiment. Humanity's development must remain unaltered. Caleb exchanged a glance with Nina, who gave a subtle nod. His voice softened, though the anger in his eyes burned brighter. Fine. Do what you have to do. Just get us home. As the Drexery prepared the humans for transport, Velra couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. The humans had endured more than she had thought possible, and their defiance in the face of overwhelming odds had left an indelible mark. She turned to Varoth, her voice quiet. Do you think they'll ever know how close they came to surpassing us? Varatha's mandibles twitched in a rare smile. They don't need to know. Their actions speak for themselves. Humanity has earned its place among the Deathworlders, and perhaps even beyond. The humans awoke in their camp the next morning, the rising sun casting a golden glow over the forest. They felt groggy, as though they had emerged from a strange and vivid dream. Caleb sat up, his hand instinctively reaching for his knife. Nina stirred beside him, rubbing her temples. I feel like I've been hit by a truck. What happened last night? Eric yawned, stretching. We must have overdone it on the hiking. I had the weirdest dream, though. Caleb frowned, his gaze distant as fragmented images flickered in his mind. He shook his head, pushing the thoughts aside. Whatever it was, it's over now. Let's focus on getting back. As they packed up their gear, a faint sense of unease lingered, as though they had brushed against something far greater than themselves. Yet, none of them could place why. Aboard the Vrashtar, Velra watched as the humans disappeared into the forest, their memories scrubbed but their spirits intact. She turned to Varoth, her tone contemplative. They'll never know how close they came to understanding us. They don't need to, Varoth replied. Their actions speak louder than their memories. Humanity has earned its place among the Deathworlders, and perhaps something even greater. Velra tilted her head, watching the serene planet recede into the distance. Do you think they'll ever look up at the stars and wonder who's watching? Varatha's expression softened, his voice carrying a rare note of respect. When they do, the galaxy will tremble. For now, let them grow. Let them adapt. Because when humanity finally reaches the stars, they will be unstoppable. The Vrashtar slipped into hyperspace, leaving Earth behind. But the Drexery knew they hadn't just encountered another Deathworld species. They had encountered a force destined to change the galaxy forever.